The Axeman of New Orleans is one of the most terrifying criminal mysteries in the history of the United States. This nickname was given to a serial killer who terrorized the city of New Orleans and its surrounding areas in 1919. Within a relatively short period, this figure managed to create mass fear that engulfed the community, not only because of the brutality of the murders, but also because the killer's identity has never been revealed to this day. The terror began around May to August 1919, when a series of horrific attacks occurred at night. The victims were found in a gruesome condition inside their own homes. The perpetrator did not seem to choose targets randomly, but rather had a specific pattern in selecting victims. This made the public even more panicked, as anyone who fit the pattern felt they could be the next victim. Most of the victims were known to be men living alone, or couples without additional protection. Their houses or apartments became easy targets for the perpetrator, who seemed to understand how to enter without leaving many traces. In many cases, the killer broke in through back doors or windows, then launched sudden attacks while the victims were off guard or asleep. The method of murder used by the Axeman was very distinctive and horrifying. He often used an axe as his main weapon, even in some cases using the victim's own axe. Found inside the house, the attacks were carried out brutally and without mercy, showing the perpetrator's great physical strengths and extreme violence. In several reports, it was mentioned that the perpetrator also mutilated the victims. The condition of the bodies found was often so horrifying that they were difficult to recognize. This further increased public fear, because the murders reflected the sadistic nature of the killer that was difficult to comprehend. Logically, there was also speculation that in some cases, the perpetrator may have committed sexual violence before killing the victims, although not all reports confirmed this. The rumors spread widely among the public and added to the aura of horror. The uncertainty regarding the details of the crimes only made public imagination run even wilder. These attacks occurred suddenly and without a fixed time pattern. Although most happened at night, residents of New Orleans lived in constant fear, never knowing when or where the next attack would occur. Many families began locking themselves inside their homes, installing additional security, and even sleeping with weapons nearby. Local police tried hard to capture the perpetrator. Investigations were carried out intensively by collecting evidence from each crime scene. However, the limitations of forensic technology at that time made the investigation process extremely difficult. Many clues could not be analyzed deeply as they can be in the modern era. The absence of clear eyewitnesses also became a major obstacle. The perpetrator seemed very careful in carrying out his actions. He came and went unseen, leaving very little trace. This made it difficult for the police to build an accurate profile of who the Axeman really was. The mass media played a big role in spreading fear. Newspapers reported every detail in a sensational style. Bold headlines and dramatic narratives made the public increasingly anxious, even beyond the city of New Orleans. One of the most famous moments was when the perpetrator allegedly sent a letter to a newspaper. In the letter, he claimed to be a supernatural being and stated that he would not attack any house playing jazz music on a certain night. This letter caused both panic and a unique phenomenon within society. On the night mentioned, almost the entire city was filled with the sound of jazz music. Clubs, homes, and streets were filled with melodies as residents attempted to protect themselves. That night became one of the strangest in the history of New Orleans, where fear and music blended into one. Even so, there was no guarantee that the letter truly came from the perpetrator. Some believed it was merely the act of someone trying to take advantage of the situation for attention. However, its impact on society was very real and strengthened the mysterious image of the act. Many theories emerged regarding the identity of the perpetrator. One popular theory suggested that he was a failed or rejected jazz musician, harboring resentment towards society. This theory arose because of the connection to the mysterious letter mentioning jazz music as protection. Another theory suggested that the perpetrator might have been a doctor. This assumption arose because the method of killing was considered to show certain patterns and an understanding of human anatomy. However, there is no concrete evidence strongly supporting this claim. Some also believe that the perpetrator was a police officer or someone with access to internal information. This was based on his ability to avoid capture and seemingly understand the situation on the ground. If true, it would indicate a very high level of intelligence. Some people even linked the case to supernatural elements. At that time, belief in mystical things was still quite strong in society. Many considered the Axeman not an ordinary human, but a figure possessing powers beyond human understanding. The widespread fear drastically changed social life. Nighttime activities decreased, and many people chose to stay inside their homes. A city once lively with music and entertainment turned into a place filled with anxiety. Over time, the attacks began to subside without clear explanation. The Aximons seemed to disappear entirely, leaving many unanswered questions. There were no arrests, no confessions, and no clarity about the perpetrator's fate. This case later became one of the greatest criminal mysteries in American history. To this day, the identity of the Axeman remains a subject of speculation and research. Many writers and investigators have tried to uncover the truth behind the case. Several books and documentaries have been made to discuss the case in depth. They attempt to gather old evidence and analyze it with modern approaches. However, the results have still not been able to definitively reveal the perpetrator's identity. The legend of the Axeman continues to live on in popular culture. His story is often retold in various forms, from books to films. This shows how powerful the impact of this case has been on public imagination. This story also serves as a reminder of the limitations of law enforcement in the past. Without modern technology, many cases were difficult to solve and ultimately became mysteries. The Axeman is one of the clearest examples of this. On the other hand, this case also shows how fear can spread rapidly within society. The combination of brutal violence and uncertainty created a highly tense environment for residents. To this day, many people remain interested in studying this case, not only because of its criminal aspect, but also because of the mystery surrounding it. The Axeman has become a symbol of unsolved crime. Was the perpetrator truly an ordinary human, or something more? This question continues to be debated without clear evidence. All theories remain within the realm of speculation. What is certain is that the terror left behind by the Axeman was very real. The victims who lost their lives stand as evidence of the cruelty that once occurred. Their stories have become an important part of the dark history of New Orleans. This mystery may never be fully solved. However, the story will continue to be told as a warning and a lesson. As time goes on, small details of this case begin to fade from public memory. However, for researchers and true crime enthusiasts, every piece of information remains extremely valuable. They try to reconstruct the timeline of events from old reports, hoping that one overlooked clue might lead to the truth. Some modern theories attempt to connect the Axeman case with other killers who may have operated in different regions. There is a possibility that the perpetrator moved locations and continued his crimes under a new identity. However, without strong evidence, this theory remains difficult to prove. In fact, it further adds to the complexity of a case that has been filled with mystery and uncertainty from the very beginning. In psychological analysis, the perpetrator is often described as an individual with high intelligence, but extreme personality disorders, the way he selected victims, the timing of the attacks, and the method of killing all suggest a planned pattern. This was not merely impulsive action, but something carefully thought out, making him even more dangerous. There is also an opinion that the Axeman may have stopped, not because he was caught, but due to other reasons. If Tati's true, then the secret of his identity may have been buried along with him. This would explain why the case suddenly ended without any official explanation from authorities. The Axeman of New Orleans remains one of the greatest riddles in the criminal world. A story that combines horror, mystery, and history